I'm Susie Biggerstaff. I've worked at Culver-Stockton College for 11 years, but I am also a graduate. I had went out and did some other things, and it's just local in the community, and it was going to work for me and my family when a position came up. So I like Culver-Stockton because we are a small college, and so you just get a pretty unique experience. Your professors are going to know you very quickly. You're going to see the president out on campus, and she's going to learn your name relatively quickly too, whether you've done anything wrong or right or anything along those lines. But it's a nice, safe community, and even though it is a private institution, people think, oh, I can't afford that, but we have several first generation students every year, students that need that financial assistance, and whatever your background is, we can help educate you. So
cool. That's awesome. So for the Big Giving Day campaign, which is what we're chatting about today. So what led you all to run this specific fundraising campaign or event? Had you done it in years past? Is it something that you've done every year and this was like the most successful year? So let's talk about that a bit.
Yep. So this was the 6th year that we ran our Giving Day on March 19th. So several years ago, we needed to try to find a bigger push in the year, besides our year end, which our fiscal year ends June 30th. And it's just a big load when there's still a lot of work to be done. So we were thinking outside the box and trying to figure out a Giving Day. One of our founders, her birthday's in March. And so, when we were doing this, it was already probably December. And so we're like, well, let's go with that day. So it's taken some time to educate our donors, why we picked that day, why we're focusing on that. I know a lot of people go on to Giving Tuesday in November, but we feel like sometimes that can be a burden for donors and that they might not have as much available income with the holidays and taxes due. Mm-hmm. So, in that March time, maybe they're getting a tax return or it's a different time of year. And so we've seen some good success at that time of year. And then it makes our last quarter a little bit less of a lift for our staff.
Yeah, that's really smart. So when you've been doing it for 6 years now, were there certain tools that you were using before? How long have you been using For a Good Cause in the development or running of this campaign?
So this was the first year that we've used For a Good Cause. So we switched over our giving platform in mid-January. So I just know our very first year, we had a homegrown form flow that we used for our giving site. So that was it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of hard work. Because I could see those gifts coming in. So I would have a board up on my wall and I could write down the names and dollar amounts so that the gift officers could see that and have that communication. Where now with For a Good Cause, just having that donor wall, having them have that access on the back end so that, somebody has anonymous, but it lets our gift officers see immediately if, they just talk to someone, they can see that that gift was made immediately, but also our donors, how it is, there's just better transparency for them so that they know and can trust that that's going where they wanted to. And so that first year we had our form flow. We did use a different platform after that, but I know the first year that we had to set up the site, it was hard to get it done in 3 months. I mean, it was nerve-wracking. So really, Ronald, it was great because he set up a sample page that very first week that we had come on, and we did some minor tweaks here and there, but it was nice because we could see how that layout was. It was easy to adjust. So having that sample page made our life so much easier in just setting up, and really we could have been going within 24 hours. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you notice a difference in how you met your goal or exceeded your goal pre For a Good Cause platform and post? or has there been like a decline in your goal, increase in meeting your goal? What does that look like?
So our goal this year was really to be at the same level as what we were the year before.
Okay.
We were slightly lower, and we kind of had an idea going in. We have some older donors that were not going to be able to do the level that they'd given in the past.
Yeah.
So, we knew that going in, but we definitely wanted to be able to meet our first initial goal earlier in the day and then throw on that additional match. And so we did, and it was so nice for the workload because we did open up the page a little bit earlier. So there was less backloading that had to be done to be able to show that dollar amount and those donors' names. It was just very easy to use.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know a better word to use than easy, but it was very easy.
Yeah. That's what everyone says. Like when I get a chance to talk to clients, that's what everyone says about For Good Cause is like how simple it is. And I just talked to another organization earlier today that is like, they have no paid staff. It's all volunteer based. And he was like, it is so easy that anyone who needs to like run a smaller campaign or like a smaller push for fundraising can just jump right in. So yeah, we love to hear it, and definitely makes us super happy that it's so easy to use. So were there any specific metrics you had hoped to improve, like compared to your prior fundraising campaigns, like donor retention? I know you mentioned that things had changed a bit for your donors, but, or recurring giving, something like that you were marking that you were hoping to see an increase of year over year?
Yep. We were hoping to see a bigger increase in recurring. We had like 3, so better than none.
Yeah.
And I know the last 3 years, I haven't had any recurring donors on that day. So that at least helped me know that, okay, we're going in the right direction. I think we just need to tweak some language. So just increasing the recurring giving. Our number of donors was actually relatively close to last year's, even with the larger dollar amount difference.
Yeah.
So it was nice because we did pull in some of our lapsed donors.
Okay.
And I think part of that was because sometimes our site before, I felt like people had to click more times, where even when you're sharing that landing page so they can read your story, it's literally one quick, easy click. I had 0 donors call with issues that day, and I haven't had that before. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
It was extremely nice that that it was working how it was supposed to be working, and that the donors could get along with it well. But yeah, we pulled back several lapsed donors, so that was great. And we did have some more new donors, and I know that we're going to kind of try to tweak some of our social media. Just with how those algorithms work, we know that we need to really get that message out a little bit sooner. We did open up the page earlier than just the day of, but getting out some of those links a little bit earlier.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm going to circle back a second to what you mentioned before about how Ronald helped you kind of set up the initial page. Was that the donation page or the landing page?
He did a sample landing page and donation page.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was curious because what was I going to say? Okay. I was curious because the landing page I noticed was like very nice and neat, and the story was very clear. And again, as somebody who's been in marketing a while, who like looks at like click-through rates on landing pages a lot, it was interesting because I think your total visits, I'm looking at Ronald's notes here, the total visits to the page was like, I think over 600, with like 190 clicking through to the donation page or the donation form, which that's like a 30% click-through rate, which is really great. Yeah. Yes, I was like, that is awesome. So I was curious, had you had like a kind of like a flow for your donors before that was like, a beautiful landing page that told the story, very clean and easy to walk through, and then right over to the form? Was that something that you had before?
So I feel like our landing page in the past was a little bulkier. There were different buttons that would go off like, oh, if you have a question on making a gift, or if you have this. And so I think sometimes that bogged it down and
Mm.
diverted their attention off of the main focus, which was really click here to donate.
Yeah.
So it was nice because we didn't have any of those other problems. And honestly, you have your information there. So if they've got questions, they can always reach out.
Mm.
So I think just having it a little bit more streamlined with less things for them to click around on is helpful and
Yeah.
helps direct them to where you really want them to go.
When you mentioned that, it made me think about how you said that 0 donors called you, which was like the first time that it happened. Did anyone email you with questions as well?
Some of them just emailed because they wanted to, we only focus on one fund for that day. We do accept gifts, of course, for anything else. And so in that drop down menu, they were like, well, I really wanted to give to men's golf. Is that okay? Yes, that is perfectly fine. Just, select other and type that into the box and I'll get that taken care of for you. So that was like the questions that I got. I didn't get well, I'm getting an error. What's going on?
Yeah.
So that part was nice because then I know like if they're clicking and going through, then it's working how it's supposed to be working. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's exciting to you. So I also wanted to ask, as far as like the campaign here, were there any differences in how you structured it or promoted it compared to campaigns in the past? Now, we just talked about how like you had a different kind of less bulky landing page, and you did mention like you shared it early and you hope in the future to continue sharing it a bit earlier through socials and stuff like that. But overall, were there any differences to how you structured it or promoted it?
Yes. So we had a new marketing director this year, and with her experience, she really helped us form a better story on our social media. And so we did get that launched earlier than what we had in the past. And I feel like the message was more concise and uniform across all the platforms. And so I know that really helped. And we tried to do a few different ways to promote it so that we could kind of see what was really hitting the best with the donors. So I felt like our story was better. And I know that we're going to kind of circle back around to that before our year end to really kind of get that back out on social media. So
yeah, that's awesome. What was the easiest thing about setting up the overall campaign prior to thinking through like the systems or tools that you used in the past versus the using like the for a good cause system? What are those like differences there? Like maybe the easiest things about it, or maybe some of the most challenging things, anything that sticks out?
So I want to say the easiest thing is when you log in and across the top, there's just the tabs. And so it's very easy to tell what really is truly on all of those tabs. In the past, our other page might have started off that way on the back end, but then as you were clicking through it, you could get lost easier. So it's nice where you just click, it's that one page, you scroll down so you can see what all is on that page. And it's not, I don't know, it's not too long to where you get lost and where do I need to find this option at? So that part is nice. Just the tabs across the top, knowing exactly what's on those, knowing that, some of them might be inactive depending on what you're using for that campaign. The automatic acknowledgement is wonderful. We'd had that in the past, but I don't feel like it worked as well as it did this time around. So the automatic acknowledgement is nice, and I can look at a copy of that if I need to, and reprint something for a donor very easily. I know one of the things that we have not used, and we didn't use it well on our day of giving, is the peer-to-peer. So we're looking at doing a mini campaign for one of our athletic groups for some improvements. And so I'm hoping to really utilize that so I can kind of have a better understanding of how that works and how we could use that on our next day of giving.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And like incorporating the two different types into the larger day of giving program. That's really cool. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And then one of the things that we were going to do too, just we try to have, some like what you might call ambassadors. And this year they did some sharing of our page, but I know that you can share directly from that landing page or the donation page. And so I think we're going to make up just like a 30-minute video on how they can help us share and help us with the cause. So I think we're going to kind of incorporate something like that so that we can reach out to those people and ask, because we know that donation is a personal cause generally. And so when you have that connection and somebody that you personally know is working on that, then they're more likely to help out too. So just making it a little bit more well-known that way.
Awesome. How many ambassadors do you all, or did you work with in the last campaign?
So we didn't work with very many on this day of giving. We did ask our alumni board, which is around 10 people, to help share. But it's amazing. Everybody's take on how to share or how to best help with that is different. And so that's why we just need something short to send out to them so that they can so that we can track that a little bit better and help them with it. I want to say the year that we did the best with our ambassadors, we had about 30. So, yeah. And I mean, that's where, they probably would have gotten at least 2 to 3 gifts each. So that's just a lot to maintain. Our staff had cut down a little bit with the people in the office. So, that takes time to set that up.
Yeah, for sure. It is it's difficult to pinpoint the right people to, share at that breadth, but yeah, that's really interesting because I think it's super wise to have just like a little collection of ambassadors that can kind of start spreading the word for you when you start sharing those socials and stuff like that. Let's see. Okay. So how has your overall experience with this particular giving day, using specifically the For Good Cause tool, how has that affected your experience of it all? How you are going to plan future campaigns, whether it's the giving day specifically or others. And you kind of touched a little bit on that with the peer-to-peer and the ambassadors and more social sharing, but I'm just curious if you have any more thoughts on
that. Yes. So I'm planning on using kind of the same format as the giving day with the landing page and then the donation page for our baseball team. And then using the peer-to-peer with it. So it's going to look, I think, pretty similar to that day of giving page. I know, we've helped some of the other sports and we've just done a donation page, but I think having that landing page, you can highlight more projects that we're needing to help with that team. And you can go in a little bit more into the story, but not make it too bulky. And they can really get your message. So I know that we'll use that landing page for that campaign, but if they've got a smaller need or 1 or 2 things, then we're just generally just using that donation page for that cause then.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then also, were there any moments where you were surprised at the outcome or the ease, right, of using the tool for this giving day compared to what you were doing in the past?
Yes. So probably 2 weeks out, we really made that page live. And that's when I was like, oh, this is going to be so much better. Everything was already flowing into it so easily and you could see things well. And, in the past we would try to have it really open for just a day. And then we'd opened it up further another time, but you know, people go to that page and then sometimes it doesn't always redirect if it was closed, and then they get an error. And so we didn't have to worry about that. And we did leave it open just a little bit longer, just because it was hitting close to a weekend. And, you know, I know how social media is. So I was like, we just need to leave it up to that Monday or Tuesday. But yeah, a couple of weeks out is when I was like, oh, this is going to be so much easier. So
That's
for everybody
awesome.
on the team. And then two, I mean, on the back end, I might have already said this, but on the back end, it's just so easy to follow along that previously I was the only one that would do stuff in the giving portals. And so now there's two others in the office that will go in and can tweak something so that if I'm not here or I'm in a meeting and we're like, oh, this is spelled wrong, let me go in and check. Like, they can find it quickly. They don't have to be like, which tab is this on? They can get to it and fix it and have it correct right away.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That's kind of the sentiment that I heard from the other person I was talking to today. Just like anyone can kind of jump in and get the work done, which is really important when you work for a nonprofit, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, it takes everyone. And so, yeah, I love that. And I guess what I'm hearing, what I feel like I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong or expand on this, is that one of the biggest changes for your organization in like what you're doing prior to using it for this giving day this year, using it meaning like using for a good cause for this day this year, is that the like technical, like it sounds like it was much more technically clean, like the whole process for your team and your donors, compared to what you were experiencing in the past.
Yes.
So I also wanted to ask you, did you have the option for givers to choose to give monthly? Did you notice if any people who gave on the giving day or maybe even returned later decided to be like a monthly recurring giver? Is that like an option that you have baked into your donation pages, or is that something that you guys are not exploring right now?
We do have it, and we do have it set as the default. Some people had clicked it accidentally, and then it's nice because it does send them that email automatically, so they could either go in and correct that, or they would email me. And so that was some of the emails that I got, like, oh my gosh, you don't want $500 a month. I'm like, I can take care of that for you. And so, you know, there's a little bit of that confusion, but we didn't have that marked as a primary choice ever in the past. And so, or I should say default. So I think we'll have a little bit of donor education there, but we had, like I said, a few that day, and then I've actually had a few more since then. And I think it's just because they've seen it and they're getting a little bit more used to that aspect of it. We're trying to promote that. We do a monthly newsletter, so we're trying to talk about that a little bit this coming month. But on the day of giving, we did not have, all you could do is use a credit card. We didn't have our Apple Pay and our Google Pay and PayPal set up yet, which got done like literally right after it. But so it'll be interesting to see with this baseball one that we're going to do, and because I feel like some of those donors will be a little bit younger. So it'll be interesting to see how impactful that is. I was really surprised when Ronald said our conversion rate. And I was like, well, I mean, we are making a lot of phone calls that day and before that and leading up to the day. So I'm like, I think our people are just used to
They're ready.
That link from us and they're going to click. But I was also pleased to see how many people did go and visit it, because then I know that it is getting out there to them. So
yeah. And it kind of just validates all that front end work that you put in to the project. Like people are ready to just go and link or click the link. Okay, so a couple more questions as we wrap up here. So what advice would you give to other small teams who would want to do a similar campaign or like a larger, giving day annually?
Yes. I mean, I know it's really convenient when you do have somebody that's gracious enough to do a match. that always resonates well with everybody, knowing that their money can go further. So that is one thing that I would definitely look into and talk to donors about. And the other thing, and I think sometimes we're unique in this, is that we really focus on one fund, but 100% of that fund does go to helping the students. So we can sell that impact better than in some of the other ways. Because if you're looking at fine arts or athletics, we don't want to be like, well, you're going to be, helping buy the chalk for the line or the drapes. We want to, it has more of an impact, an immediate impact. And so sometimes I think that is helpful, and sometimes I think that does harm us. And so going forward, we might look at picking a few different maybe priorities to highlight. But I honestly feel like sticking with one so that you can have one concise message is great. And then if they want to support something else in it, then they can.
Yeah. Yeah, that is good advice. So what did you and your team learn from this particular campaign that you feel like you'll take into future campaigns?
Making sure that we establish some of those ambassadors that can share correctly going forward. I think that will really help bump us probably up to where we would, aspiring a little bit higher. Having just the digital wallet on this next time around, I think will be a bit of a game changer.
Something that I think falls under this question is you did mention you'd like to see how it works out if you add the peer-to-peer element to the giving, which I think is really interesting and kind of like boosts the fun and excitement and the community element of it. So yeah, I'm wondering if that's something that you'll, in this particular fundraising day, if you'll carry into the future to see how it goes.
How it goes, yes.
Okay, was there any moment that you felt especially meaningful, or even, whether it's meaningful to your donors or maybe affirming to your team for this particular giving day, something that stuck out as a really great experience or a memorable moment?
I think when we met our first match, because I was really expecting us to meet that a little bit later in the day. And so knowing that we met it at that time was great. And it felt good for the team because I had envisioned us being lower on the day than what we, and we came out higher than what I had really kind of forecasted in my own mind. So when we met that first part of the match and the excitement of getting the language for help us push higher, it was great.
Yeah. Are there practices that you will continue using in the future based on the outcome of this particular campaign, or tactics or strategies?
So yes, I think we've learned that we just have to get any of those sites out quicker, so that people can hear about it before it actually happens, building up some of that excitement, or, even being like, you can make your gift now. So that is part of it. Using the landing page, I think that does help really tell your story in an easy way. I'm excited to get a video in on the next one because some people really like videos and they can be pretty impactful. So, got to have the right length on that and the right subject. But I know that that is one that we're really looking at incorporating a video along with that message and that impact. So, the landing page, because at first I was like, how is it, you're trying to think how it's all going to work in your mind, but it was so smooth. So
that's awesome. And last question for you before we wrap up. So has this campaign influenced how you think about fundraising overall?
That you need to make it easy for your donor. and that transparency for them to get that acknowledgement right away is important. Knowing that conversion rate solidifies that personal relationships, and making those calls, messaging them through email or text really is impactful, because I mean, that's why I think our conversion rate was so high.
Mhm.
Because unfortunately, March 19th is the day that we go with, but that can be any day of the week sometimes. And we know that everybody's working and that they're not supposed to be on their phones. So having those messages sent so that they can click it on a lunch or after work, before the day even starts. But it does, to me, solidify that those personal relationships, at least for our organization, is what is going to drive our success.
Mhm. That's awesome. Yeah. And I feel like that's a really wonderful takeaway for small teams or organizations like yours with this particular event, like this particular fundraising event. So that's very exciting. Well, thank you so much for your time.
So thank you for taking the time to talk
Yes.
to me. And, I've talked to 2 other schools that have a different platform right now, and I'm like, you need to look at them. I appreciate the emails that we get. I'm going to say once a month, but I think it's a little bit more frequent than that. But just about some of the different options that are available, because it's easy to know what you did before, but you always have to kind of tweak it and make it exciting for those donors
Yeah.
too. So having some of those options emailed out so that you can be like, oh yeah, let's look at this. Greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Yeah. We are happy that it's been so easy for you. That is like that the platform has been so easy for you. And that's something that I love hearing again and again, because like we all need more of that in our lives, right?
We do. And everybody is busy, and sometimes I feel bad because he might email me something and I am not always timely. I feel like it's emailing him back as he is to me, but I can ask him 1 or 2 questions and he's going to be right on it and sharing the link that helps walk through it, or explaining why something's not possible. You're not like, after that, you're not questioning. You're like, okay, that makes sense. He's just very good at explaining that and going through. So I appreciate it a whole lot.